In 2019, two climbers made their final, fateful attempt on the world's most notorious killer mountain, Nanga Parbat, a dream to conquer the unconquerable, to defy death itself. But what followed was a catastrophe that left even the most experienced rescuers stunned. This isn't just another tale of ambition. This is the story of what happens when human will pushes too far against nature's wrath. The climb, the tragedy, and the shocking reality that not even the strongest dreams are immune to the mountain's wrath. Nanga Parbat, the ninth highest mountain in the world at 8,126 meters, looms large in the history of mountaineering. Known as the Killer Mountain, it is a peak of unfathomable beauty and danger, where triumphs are rare and tragedies are abundant. In February 2019, Daniele Nardi and Tom Ballard, two mountaineers driven by an unmatched passion and ambition, set out to conquer it. They chose the Mummery Spur, a route so treacherous and unforgiving that it had never been successfully climbed to the summit. Daniele Nardi, an Italian climber, had a deep and personal connection to Nanga Parbat. For him, it was not merely a mountain, but a calling, a towering testament to his belief that humanity could achieve greatness through persistence and courage. Nardi was no stranger to the Mummery Spur. He had attempted it 4 times before, each time retreating in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet, he returned time and time again, drawn by the promise of completing a route first envisioned by British climber Albert F. Mummery over a century earlier. Tom Ballard, his climbing partner, was the son of Alison Hargreaves, a legendary British mountaineer who perished on K2 in 1995. Ballard had inherited his mother's adventurous spirit and was a skilled climber in his own right. He had already etched his name into mountaineering history by solo climbing all 6 of the great north faces of the Alps in a single winter. Nanga Parbat was his next great challenge, a mountain whose very name, translated as Naked Mountain, invoked its raw, untamed nature. The ascent began in the dead of winter, a time when Nanga Parbat revealed its most merciless side. Temperatures plunged below -40 Celsius, turning the mountain into an unyielding fortress of ice and rock. Winds howled with relentless ferocity, cutting through even the thickest layers of clothing, and every gust threatened to destabilize their precarious footing. Snowfall obscured their vision, erasing any semblance of the path ahead. Yet, for Daniele Nardi and Tom Ballard, this was the moment they had prepared for, physically, mentally, and emotionally. The Mummery Spur was no ordinary route. It was infamous for its sheer ice walls, unstable seracs that looked like frozen guillotines, and avalanche-prone slopes that could collapse with the faintest vibration. It was as if the mountain itself dared anyone to challenge its might. Nardi and Ballard had accepted that challenge, armed with their experience, tools, and an unshakable belief in their abilities. They knew the risks, but they also knew the glory of achieving the impossible. As they climbed higher, the physical toll became inescapable. Their muscles ached under the strain of heavy packs, each step sinking into deep snow or slipping on heavy ice patches. The thin air crawled at their lungs, making even the smallest exertion feel monumental. Hunger gnawed at their insides, and every sip of water came at the cost of precious fuel melted from snow. Sleep, when it came at all, was restless, shrouded in the damp chill of their tents and accompanied by the omnipresent moan of the wind. But beyond the physical, there was the weight of isolation. The higher they climbed, the more the world below seemed to dissolve. The vast, unbroken expanse of white stretched endlessly in every direction, a stark and unforgiving landscape that offered no signs of life, no refuge. The oppressive silence, broken only by the church of crampons on ice, or the occasional crack of a shifting serac, felt almost deafening. Communication with the outside world became a tenuous lifeline, as weather and altitude rendered their satellite phone unreliable. The knowledge that no one could reach them in time if disaster struck must have loomed large in their minds. Each night brought them closer to their dream, but also deeper into the mountain's grasp. Setting up camp was a race against the elements. Their hands, numb with cold, struggled to secure the tent against howling winds. Inside, they huddled together, sharing body heat and planning their next move. In these moments, perhaps they spoke of their motivations: Nardi's lifelong obsession with the Mummery Spur, and Ballard's quest to carve his name into mountaineering history. Perhaps they allowed themselves brief moments of hope, imagining the view from the summit and the triumph of completing a route that had defeated so many before them. Yet they must have also known that every step forward brought increasing danger. Avalanches could sweep them away without warning. A single misstep on the ice could spell disaster. They had climbed beyond the point of rescue, into a realm where survival depended entirely on their skills, decisions, and an often fickle balance of luck. The margin for error was vanishingly slim. Despite the isolation, they had each other. The bond between climbing partners in such conditions is profound, built on trust, shared goals, and an understanding that your life is, quite literally, in the other person's hands. Tied together by rope, they moved as one, navigating the treacherous terrain in unison. When one faltered, the other provided stability. When doubt crept in, they offered words of encouragement. In the face of a mountain that seemed determined to erase them, they clung to the humanity they shared. What must it have been like in those final days, as they approached the limits of endurance? Did they feel the pull of the summit, so tantalizingly close, yet still agonizingly far? Did they share quiet moments of reflection, acknowledging the beauty of the mountain, even as it tested their resolve? Or did they, perhaps, sense that the mountain might ultimately claim them, as it had so many before? For Nardi and Ballard, the climb was never just about reaching the top. It was about confronting the limits of what it means to be human, pushing themselves beyond the ordinary, into a realm where few dared to tread. And so, they pressed onward, leaving behind the safety of the known world and stepping deeper into the frozen heart of Nanga Parbat. By late February, Daniele Nardi and Tom Ballard had reached an altitude of approximately 6,300 meters on the unforgiving face of Nanga Parbat. The summit, elusive and shrouded in winter storms, still loomed high above them, a ghostly silhouette in the thinning air. They had pushed themselves to the limits of human endurance, navigating the treacherous ice walls and avalanche-prone ridges of the Mummery Spur. Each step was a triumph against the mountain, yet the higher they climbed, the closer they came to the razor-thin boundary between success and catastrophe. Their last known communication was a brief message to base camp, sent through an unreliable connection that crackled with interference. It spoke of determination, of their plan to push forward despite worsening weather conditions. The optimism in their words masked the mounting challenges they faced. Supplies were dwindling, the storms were intensifying, and their bodies were weakened under the relentless assault of altitude and cold. Yet, they pressed on, driven by the lure of the summit and the profound need to achieve what they had spent their lives dreaming about. And then, silence. Days passed without word from Nardi and Ballard. Back at base camp, the team monitoring their progress grew anxious. Attempts to reach them via satellite phone went unanswered. Their calls met with the hollow static of isolation. On the mountain, storms raged with a ferocity that made rescue efforts nearly impossible. The world below could only watch and wait, caught between the hope and the grim reality of the risk the climbers faced. As hours turned to days, the hope of finding them alive began to wane. The mountain's reputation as the killer mountain was well earned, and its winter conditions left little margin for error. The silence felt deafening, a cruel confirmation of the dangers inherent in their quest. The rescue operation was launched with urgency, but every second felt like an eternity. Ali Sedpara, a legendary Pakistani climber, led the search, braving the deadly conditions of the mountain in a desperate bid to locate Nardi and Ballard. Helicopters soared into the skies, scanning the white expanse for any sign of movement. Drones equipped with cameras searched crevices and cliffs, hoping to spot a flash of color against the endless white. The odds were stacked against them. The storm clouds that had likely enveloped the climbers also obscured the search. The biting cold, the thin air, and the sheer scale of the mountain made every effort Herculean. As the days stretched on, the urgency of the search shifted from a rescue mission to a recovery effort, though no one wanted to admit it aloud. Families and friends of the climbers clung to hope, their emotions swinging wildly between optimism and despair. On March 9, 2019, after over a week of relentless searching, the worst fears were confirmed. From the air, the bodies of Daniele Nardi and Tom Ballard were spotted, lifeless and frozen in the icy grip of the Mummery Spur. They were found roped together, an enduring symbol of their partnership and the unbreakable bond forged in the face of adversity. Their final resting place, at approximately 6,300 meters, marked the spot where their dream had ended. The exact circumstances of their deaths remained uncertain, but the signs pointed to an avalanche or fatal slip, events that could occur in an instant on such a perilous route. The mountain had claimed them, as it had so many before, and in doing so, it solidified their place in its storied history. It is impossible to know with certainty what thoughts occupied their minds in those last moments. Perhaps they looked back at the journey they had undertaken, marveling at the sheer scale of what they had accomplished. Perhaps they clung to each other, finding comfort in the presence of a partner who understood the unspoken fears and hopes that defined such a climb. Did they feel the creeping realization that the mountain would not let them leave? Or did they fight until the very end, believing that one more effort, one more step, could bring them closer to safety? The thought is both haunting and profoundly human, a reminder of the fragility of life in face of nature's immense power. For those left behind, the discovery of their bodies brought closure and an enduring sense of loss. Their families, friends, and the climbing community as a whole mourned not just the men they had lost, but the unrealized potential of their shared dream. Nardi and Ballard's journey was one of extraordinary ambition, a testament to the indomitable human spirit that refuses to yield even in the face of overwhelming odds. Their story is not merely one of tragedy, but also of hope, a hope that their legacy will inspire others to dream boldly, to push boundaries, and to embrace the beauty and danger of life's most profound challenges. On the slopes of Nanga Parbat, they became part of something larger than themselves, their names forever etched into the icy cliffs, and their spirits carried forward by those who continue to climb. For Nardi and Ballard, the mountain was not just a destination, but a calling, and in their final days, they answered it with courage, resolve, and an unyielding belief in the power of the human will.